Hello, guys. Welcome back to another podcast. This time, we're going to be reviewing one of the most underrated and overhated animated films ever made of all time.
Yep. If you see the title of this video, you know what it is. This is being called Alpha and Omega. This movie was released by Ben Gluck and Anthony Bell, released in 2010, and for some reason, it is distributed and released by Lionsgate. For some people who may know Lionsgate for directing, let's say, Saw and all the other movies you may know, and of course, this movie has been overhated. It is I heard that this is Jack's favorite film that he will always defend against every single people who dislikes it, because we are gonna explain why I think this movie actually looks very good, and why I think it looks better than I expected. But before we get into the movie, me and Jack had to deal with a certain turtle we had to deal with before we get into it.
Yeah.
Why are you two dodging on me? This is unnecessary. I have every right to call you out, Mr. Complaining a lot for hating Lilo and Stitch and Paw Patrol.
We beg to differ, Bowser, so be quiet. Be quiet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bowser, if you don't shut up, you're going to get it.
Oh, boy. He's crying.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
my-
what I thought. That's what I thought. What was I?
We were talking about A&O.
Yeah. Well, sorry about that, guys. Bowser better not come over here again. Well, back to the film. Like I said, it is overhated, and well, as you can tell, this movie is the first and the only film to have an all-star cast featuring Justin Long, Hayden Panettiere, the late Dennis Hopper, Danny Glover, Christina Ricci, Larry Miller, Eric Price, and of course, everyone that's included, including Toby Huss, who is going to play as Dale Gribble in the new 2025 revival of King of the Hill to take over, who was originally voiced by Johnny Hardwick, who died in 2023.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, let's get started talking about Alpha and Omega from 2010.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
So, the movie starts off with a very, very, I must say, a very marvelous mountain setting, and
Yeah.
take my word for it, you thought Pixar could give us this kind of scenery like this.
Mm-hmm.
As we take a look, as we zoom into the forest, we come across young Omega Wolf Humphrey, and played by Justin Long, who, well, He's just being Humphrey.
Yeah. Oh my! I'm trying to be loud enough so that no one hears the music in the background. Yeah, because it's copyrighted music, and my parents like to play it very loud.
YouTube, please don't demonetize this video because we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear copyright music here.
You can't. It really matters if Duke hears it or not. If he doesn't hear it, then maybe YouTube won't hear it.
Yep. Well, anyway, back to the film. This movie takes place in Alberta, Canada, Jasper's National Park, where we come across young Omega Wolf Humphrey, played by Justin Long, who is just being, well, Humphrey. He was just sliding down he's basically he's, like I said, he's just being Humphrey. So that's how I describe that here.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, of course, we although we come across a young Omega Wolf, we also come across with a young Alpha Wolf named Kate, played by Hayden Panettiere, who have a crush on each other and love secretly. As well as Kate leaves for Alpha School, Winston, who is Kate and Lily's father and a leader of the Western Pack, is conscious of their friendship and reminds Humphrey that Alphas and Omegas cannot marry according to the Pack law. But as spring comes around, both
We see
Kate and Humphrey mature.
we see more beautiful scenery during the opening titles.
Yeah, we did. I was about to get to that too. They do have marvelous sceneries, indeed. Probably so. I do like how this kind of reminds you of sceneries that you would see from Pixar or DreamWorks here, but it's not to the point where I mean, I don't understand why people hate it, because the sceneries do look good. I'll give you that. I will give Ben Gluck and Anthony Bell for that.
But then it starts getting all menacing.
Oh yeah.
Because right after the opening title, we see a park ranger loading his tranquilizer gun.
Oh yeah. We see that. Yeah, we can see that. Anyway, back to the film. As spring comes around, both Kate and Humphrey mature. Humphrey and his friends see Kate on her first hunt, pursuing a herd of wildebeest. A herd of caribou. As Kate and her team close in on the caribou, they are interrupted by two enemy Eastern Pack wolves, which causes a stampede, which I don't quote that it's a copy to The Lion King. Don't say that, please. As Kate saves the two Eastern wolves from getting trampled, the Western Pack wolves start a scuffle. But of course, Humphrey and his friends break up the conflict.
It was mostly a wolf named Kandu who started the fight.
That is true. That is true. And of course, we have to come across a very, and I mean very, very immature moment right there, which I will not name.
Right. Oh God.
Yeah. If people seen it, don't say I don't want to say it.
Oh, God.
Well, anyways, Winston meets with Eastern Pack leader Tony to discuss the pack's food shortage. They agree that merging the packs together would end their conflict. They all decide that Kate should marry Tony's alpha son, Garth, who is played by Chris Carmack, and to unite the packs and meet tonight at the Moonlight Howl. However, overhearing the conversation, Kate begrudgingly agrees for the good of the pack. I mean, the lesser, the better.
And like right at the beginning of the meeting, we get this jump scare of this flock of birds just flying right at the screen.
And I can see why this movie is in 3D. I can get why what Lionsgate is going for here, since this movie is in 3D. Because you get 3D glasses wearing, and you see something coming straight out of the big screen.
And actually, before the meeting, we're introduced to a rather interesting character, I should say.
Yep. We come across someone named Eve, voiced by Vicki Lewis, who's an aggressive but caring alpha wolf from the Western Pack. I know she's aggressive and all, but I think she's she's still a very entertaining character so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that word from Nostalgia Critic when he reviewed this movie.
Yeah. I should point out Winston's second command. His name is Hutch, the freaking wolf with the facial markings. You know, he looks like an Indian. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
He's voiced by the B-Man from freaking what was that can do? I don't know. He's voiced by someone named Paul Nachunk. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Anyway.
Well, anyway, back to the film. We come across a very uncomfortable scene. I should not mention here. Kill me.
Oh gosh, no!
I'm sorry, but I had to say it. I had to say it.
Oh my god!
If you know what I'm talking about, yes, it's the howling scene.
Oh my god! Duke. The freaking. I think you forgot to mention Reba and Janice. The freaking.
That's true. Yep.
The vegetarians.
Yep.
Because they have creepy grins.
They do have creepy grins. They do.
And their servants are squirrels for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Oh wait, they're vegetarians. That's
Yeah, that's true. Well, during the back to the topic, during the Moonlight's Howl, Garth reveals that he is very, and I mean very, very bad at howling. And an unimpressed Kate politely excuses herself. So she runs into Humphrey, and let's just say they both got tranquilized by those park rangers that Jack pointed out.
and can they really be considered villains?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I mean, they're just doing their jobs.
And of course, poor Kate and Humphrey got tranquilized, but not to the point where they're gonna pull off a Candyman sequence from Madagascar. Don't take that word for it.
Those park rangers what makes them quote unquote villainous is the fact that we never see their faces.
Yeah, we don't. We don't see their faces. So after they were tranquilized, they were taken to Sawtooth National Recreation Area in Idaho. They come across the golfing goose Marcel, voiced by voiced by Larry Miller, and who, of course, Larry, we all know. Shoot, I thought of The Office for a minute. No, he's not in The Office. I know he's not in there. I was thinking of The Office for a minute. Anyway, yeah, like I said, Larry Miller, and we also come across Patty, voiced by Eric Price, who is a duck caddy. They soon learned that they were relocated to repopulate the species and agreed that they must return home to Jasper Park, sneaking in a RV.
Okay. When we first see those two birds, there are 3 porcupines present there. One of them is voiced by Nico Futterman, who you might know as a character from The Loud House.
Yep.
And they put some toilet humor in there as well, because when the ball, it's a rock, bounces up, we see it bouncing off an outhouse, and inside a woman goes, "Just a second."
Yep.
And then we get, and then right before the ball rock reaches the hole, a freaking woodpecker appears out of nowhere and starts pecking at it just to spite. It got like out of spite, I'm pretty sure he did it out of spite. And of course, we can't forget about that human couple who owned that RV.
Yep. Little did we know, the unfortunate, I forgot to mention, we're not going to be talking about the sequels because we're going to kind of explain something on what I think that's kind of a bit, let's say, kind of wrong to do for Lionsgate, but not to the point where we would hate the studio entirely. But once we get to that, Humphrey chases after Marcel, which unfortunately leads to something very unexpected, but of course almost relief, which we'll not talk about. So basically, they were heading straight towards the caribou's bum, but
it's a moose. Oh my god! Instead, they end up hitting his antlers.
Oh, I thought they were gonna take this in a very, very wrong place here. I thought they were gonna take it the wrong place.
And then when he's like flying through the air and there's a bunch of birds. By the way, those birds keep getting knocked out by the horrible howling.
Yep, those were the same birds that got their eardrums exploded. Rest in peace.
They're not dead. They're just like knocked dizzy, I guess. But one of them is apparently named Frank.
Yep, that's true.
Hi, Frank. Oh my god.
Well, after that, back at the park in Canada, Tony had somehow made a warning to Winston that if Kate does not return by full moon, war will be inevitable, or should I say, the consequences. And then we come across another unsettling moment. This is when Eve decided to get very, very, very aggressive. So aggressive that one of the wolves got so frightened by.
So scared he fell off a rock.
Yep.
By the way,
Again, I don't care what people say, but I think Eva's a very entertaining character so far.
By the way, I actually made a meme out of this shot of like where these four wolves get angry at over berries, yet they become happy over squirrels. I made a meme out of that on Instagram, like where like the angry reaction, the growling is like a reaction to jalapenos, and the smiling, tongues out, drooling is my reaction to Takis.
Yep.
Oh boy.
So back to the film. So of course, Kate and Humphrey return to somehow sneaked into a RV.
Owned by a human couple.
Yep. And back in the park, I forgot to mention that Lily decides to show Garth around the Western Pack's territory until Kate returned, and they begin to form some kind of bond.
And let's be honest, I can see why people consider her the best character in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's, how do I put it without being put out of context? Like, she's cute, but not in that way.
Yep. Don't take that seriously, guys. Don't take that seriously. So back there, well, back again, the RV had stopped at Todd's gas. There's no, what happened to another? There's only one D. There's no two Ds. Okay, then. We're just gonna go right there.
All right. And I forgot to mention this during the scene where they're hitching right in the RV. The couple, driving. This couple, by the way, is great. Is great. Like the husband's all big and the wife's all short and I think elderly looking. I don't know if she's elderly or not, but we have the wolves just copying their dancing. But anyway,
yeah, that scene.
but anyway, while they're hitching right in the RV, we hear a very awesome song in the background. It's called "On the Loose Again." Go listen to it. If you're watching this. But then poor Kate has a freaking nightmare, and it's scary as heck.
Yep.
It shows
that sequence.
It shows the wolves having a war,
Yep.
But anyway, back to the gas station.
So, so back to the gas station. Humphrey somehow had a little snack. He had a cupcake, but unfortunately, two men believe that he has rabies, and that's when someone decides to come in with a double barrel. A shotgun. I almost said double barrel shotgun for a minute because like two barrels.
That's and what's the result? Probably my two favorite human characters in the film because of how funny they are.
They are indeed. The only bad thing is that they were copied and pasted in the later sequels, which we will not mention here. We will not mention.
Anyway. Okay. By the way, during the whole cupcake sequence, we see a dog named Lewis in another camper, but that's not the most important thing I'm going to point out. The most important thing I'm going to point out is that his owner looks like Russell from Up.
Yep.
Like, look at him. He seriously looks like Russell from Up.
That's true. That's true. He does.
I don't think that was Lionsgate's intention, though.
Nope.
I just feel like pointing that out because he looks like Russell from Up.
Yeah, we all know that Lionsgate is not intentionally trying to copy and paste stuff here.
Anyway, And then Max shoots a hole in the fence.
Yep, causing the two to somehow get away. But later, then, as it starts raining, Kate came across a ravine, but is unable to cross it, and Humphrey comes to her rescue. But flattered by his bravery, Kate begins to admire Humphrey.
Okay, first of all, that mudslide scene is very suspenseful.
Yeah, that was very that is suspenseful, right?
I mean, like the intense rain, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, there's comedic moments to it, but still. And second of all, you can't forget about the rain dance.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't forget that.
He does it backwards.
Yeah, he does it backwards. I forgot about that. So, the next day after that, we come across Marcel and Patty again, as they were directing them to a train heading to Jasper Park. But, however, the two wolves have to come across a snowy mountain.
Oh boy, yeah. And then there's this very jarring transition, by the way.
Yep.
Where like it cuts from the two birds talking to extreme close-up of eyes.
And those close-ups, and that close-up belongs to Garth. And not so fun fact, the theatrical trailer and TV spots of the movie kind of edited the close-up eyes to thinking that it's supposed to be Kate. Well, if you look at the movie again, that doesn't look like Kate.
Yeah. And we actually finally get to see and we finally get to see Lily's eyes. Well, we do see one eye throughout the film, but I mean when the bangs or whatever like push out of her eyes, we see both of them, and yeah.
Yep.
And
Anyway, back to the mountains. Kate and Humphrey were both playing a little bit of a fun game of snowball fights. And after that, they come across Humphrey comes across a grizzly bear cub and plays with it. But unfortunately, Snow throws Snow a little too hard at it, beginning to cry, attracting an angry trio of grizzly bears.
And yeah.
For anyone who's afraid of bears, don't watch this scene.
Hey, they're not as scary as Vincent.
They're not. Or Mor'du from Brave. After a successful escape, Kate and Humphrey managed to get into the train that is heading straight towards on the way back to Jasper National Park.
And that train looks like the Polar Express.
But unlike the Polar Express, there's no coaches where passengers would be, because they all just have trains with cargo in there.
Right. Just imagine being the engineer, unaware that there are two wolves hitching a ride on your train.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
Oh my god. You know, for kids. Wait, what? Why did I say that? No. Do you know what warrants, for kids? The fact that we have a gun in the film.
Yep. True.
Like, geez, Max. Like, he literally tried shooting them while they were running away. Like, dude, they're running away from the gas station. Let them go. Don't. By the way, By the way, me and Duke made a Squidward joke out of the other guy. I forgot to mention.
Squidward joke, yes. Oh yeah, I made a Squidward joke back there. Mr. Krabs, can I go home yet? No one goes home. Look at these bags under my eyes. Even my bags have bags.
Oh my god! Because that's the guy who doesn't have a. We're assuming his name is Todd. I don't know, but he has big bags under his eyes.
Someone must have not had good sleep there. That's how I describe. That's how I describe Todd. That's how I describe him.
Well, let's be honest. The scene does take place at night. They probably work nightly hours.
Yep, I believe so. Back to the film. Breaking pack law. Lily compassionately teaches Garth how to howl properly, but at the same time, we come across another beautiful. I think probably one of the most beautiful moments, especially if you listen to the soundtrack by Chris Bacon. It's I don't know what the soundtrack piece name is, but it basically involves Justin Long and Hayden Panettiere singing together. Just how you don't hear lyrics, you just hear them howl.
Yeah, I tear up every time I watch that scene. Not as much as the scene that we'll get to later, but yeah. And finally, the birds don't pass out. So...
They don't. Thankfully, that. And after that, Tony unfortunately catched Garth and Lily and ultimately declares war on the Western Pack. This did not age well.
Resulting in horrifying imagery. These these wolves we've seen throughout the film. You know, Hutch, Candu, Claus, Scar. They look feral in this scene.
They do. They do.
The only wolves who don't look feral are Humphrey's friends, who, if you want to know their names, you can just look it up.
Yep. So, after that, after a unexpected feral turn of events, the train somehow passed by Jasper, and Kate and Humphrey's exchange of feelings is cut short by the sight of two packs at war. And unfortunately, Kate announced that she will marry Garth to unite the pack, much to Humphrey's dismay.
I forget. Right before the train shows back up, we have. Remember Reba and Janice? They return, running through the freaking aisle, shouting, "Stop the insanity! Go organic!"
What were they doing?
We have freaking one of Humphrey's friends, whose name's Shaky, by the way, the little guy, clapping.
Yes, exactly.
All the other wolves glare at him.
Yep.
And Humphrey almost freaking dies.
That's true. That is freaking true. That is true.
Why? Because freaking Vicky Lewis over here jumps to conclusions.
That's true. They did.
I mean, she tried to strangle him to death. It's actually horrifying.
But not to the point where she's copying Homer Simpson over here.
Yeah, no. She's a twig. Homer's fat.
Yeah.
She's a twig. I mean, aside from her face, the rest of her body is quite, slender. So.
Yep.
But, yeah. I mean, her pent up, her rage combined with how terrified he clearly is, it scares me.
Yep. Well, during a ceremony, Kate backs out from Garth as she declares her love for Humphrey, and Garth subsequently declares his love for Lily, much to Tony's anger.
before that, we get a rather, how do you say, poignant, poignant. I don't know this. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to say it. Poignant, whatever. Scene of Lily brushing Kate's tail and getting sad. You know, like she literally breaks the pine cone with her mouth.
Yep.
And you know, Humphrey shows up and tells Kate, you know, I'm freaking leaving.
Yep.
And it's really sad. Like, but at least the birds returned.
Yep. That's true.
Of course, let's be honest, the biggest comic reliefs have to be Humphrey's three friends, you know. One's all tall and skinny. Another one is short, that's what I sort of describe him, and the third one, he's just fat.
Yep. Yeah. Well, back to the film. We come across a fight again, which is also the same sequence that we also seen from Kate's nightmare sequence that somehow came up short as we come across the climax. Once again, another caribou stampede. But don't say that it's a copy to the Stampede from Disney.
Oh god. Okay. This is the scene that we're gonna get to it. This is the scene that made me cry. We'll get to it, don't worry.
Yeah, we are. We can't spoil it yet. So, after the fight somehow frightened a nearby herd of caribou, causing a stampede, Winston and Tony struggle to outrun the herd, and Humphrey and Kate both cross paths to work together to save them. Unfortunately, Kate got struck by the caribou and is knocked unconscious. And now we're at the point where this is the scene that Jack's talking about here.
Scene that makes me freaking cry every time I see it. Every dang time.
Yep. Every single time you mention it.
It's just the atmosphere, the music, the facial expressions, Justin Long's voice acting, it sounds like he's genuinely crying.
Yep. And then after that, everyone joins in howling. But of course, Kate is not dead. Like I said, she's only knocked unconscious. She awakens, and after that, she and Humphrey confess their love for each other, as Garth and Lily confess theirs as well.
God. Like, seriously, it's a yes, I'm glad she woke up. But that doesn't stop that scene from being freaking heartbreaking. I mean, the soundtrack version is even worse. Because instead of realistic wolf howling, we have, like in the actual movie, the howling is like actual stock howling sound effects.
Oh gosh.
In the soundtrack version, though, it's the singing howling.
Oh boy.
And it's even sadder there.
Yep. It is. So after that, Winston and Tony both abolished the law against marriage between alphas and omegas, and they accept the union of the packs via marriage between Garth and Lily. At the Moonlight Howl, the wolves celebrate the love of Kate and Humphrey and Garth and Lily, breaking the social classes and traditions. And after that, the movie ends with Humphrey and Kate howling a duet again. Probably also the same thing you'll probably hear in the soundtrack as well.
Which made Duke emotional.
Yeah, but I thought Titanic or Why Charlie Brown Why could be that emotional too. And of course, the movie ends with the moonlight or the full moon.
Yeah.
But of course, we come across one more thing. This movie is in fact dedicated in memory of Dennis Hopper, who has died from prostate cancer 4 months before the movie was released in 2010.
Yeah, it's sad. But yeah, that's the movie ends. Everyone's celebrating. All the characters you come to know, they're all celebrating. Everything's happy.
And of course, the end credits does sound a little bit interesting because we don't see unlike the epilogue, unlike most movies where you see like epilogues of characters doing something after the movie, you see concept arts of the characters and prior to the film, and I don't know, maybe some behind the scenes also you might also see some behind the scenes of the characters as well.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to point this out. Dang it! Humphrey's friend Shaky, the small man, has a crush on Reba and Janice. He's voiced by Kevin Sussman or whatever his last name is.
Mm,
He was also in the Big Bang Theory.
yep. And of course, that's how the movie ends. The cast and crew was, like I said, the cast and crew are decent, but of course, after the first one, just like Open Season, I consider the later sequels uncanon because they're not exactly released theatrically.
Yeah, I can see that. But dang that. Whoever knew this movie can be both sad, funny, and scary at the same time. Like,
Yeah, who knew?
and this movie's for children. It's rated PG, guys.
Yep. It's PG, keep in mind.
It's not rated G. It's rated PG. So there's a lot of dark elements in it, obviously. Like,
Yep.
what I like the most about this movie, the villains. The villains are not even evil.
Yep.
I mean, like, I literally described it to Duke on Instagram last night. Like, Tony just wants to do what he thinks is right for the pack. The park rangers were just doing their jobs.
Yep.
Todd and Max were understandably just trying to put a rabid wolf out of his misery. All the villains, they're not even evil. Okay. By the way, guys, I do not consider the Caribou a final boss. All right.
I don't. We don't.
Because they don't do much. In my opinion, the real final boss of the film is those three freaking beasts. You know what I mean? Because they're the last obstacles they come across before they manage to get on the train. So
that is indeed true. That's true. Yeah, but of course, unlike most films where you see where you have antagonists brawling and or ultimately leading to their demise, you don't see that here in Alpha and Omega. You don't see that there. You don't see that anywhere.
Mainly because the main antagonist redeems himself.
That's true. Unlike the villains from Disney or DreamWorks or whatever, you see villains that ultimately has their fate getting, whether they will be devoured or getting struck or most of all falling to their deaths.
And saying the park rangers, they remind me of the scuba divers from Finding Nemo. Think about it. They capture the not the titular characters. They're the reason why everything else in the movie happens.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can't hate them because they're not aware of this.
Yeah.
You can't really hate Philip from Finding Nemo, can you?
Nope.
So you can't hate the park rangers either, no matter how intimidating they are.
True. So that. Well, so that is it for Alpha and Omega. This is, like I said, it's a really great film. Granted, it's not as bad as what people think it is. At least they did better than Snow White and Food Fight. Thank God for that. And well, all in all, I think that's pretty much it that we have covered for today.
Yeah. Before I end off, I'm thinking my dad is off work tomorrow and Tuesday. So do you think we should do our podcast for, unless you're busy, do you think we should do our podcast for The Mist on Wednesday?
I think we could, yeah, but be warned, people, for who are watching. This is one of those horror movies that is not exactly horror because for some reason there is something that's gonna take us off to no end, which we will explain later.
Which we'll explain on Wednesday.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because my dad's off work on Monday and Tuesday, so and I want to hang out with him. So
Yep.
even though he works at the house, but yeah. Anyway, we'll see you all on Wednesday.
Yep. See you there.